Good morning. Good morning. Happy Friday. I am with you guys, continuing my series on my exodus from addiction. And I have to tell you that when I decided to do this, when I decided to yield to the Lord and do this, I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know what it was going to sound like. I didn't even know how many parts, what the parts were going to be called. But every single day, He gives me the heading for the part or chapter per se that I'm on. And it reminds me of, during that time in the wilderness where the Israelites were on a journey from their place of slavery to their promise. The Lord provided enough manna each morning, just enough for that day, in order for them to get through. It was what you refer to as manna in the Bible, was like a resting of this lightweight breaded stuff on the grass, and it was just enough for that morning. And so every day when I'm getting up, the Lord has given me just what He wants me to do for that day. And so I'm going to pick up where I left off, where it was when Emmy actually almost drowned. And Brayson was out there, and it was because of Brayson that I so didn't want Brayson. It was because of him that I was out. That we were out there, and she was saved that day. So during that time period after Dylan was born, postpartum again, and I never forgot about Adderall. I never forgot about it. I kept looking for it. I was trying to get it. I actually during that time period too had sought out like anti-anxiety medication, depression medication, and I ended up getting prescribed Prozac. And I was just miserable. Like, I was so miserable. I had gone back to work. Now I'm trying to juggle 4 kids. I'm trying to juggle work. I'm trying to juggle a home. And I think that one of the things that we do as moms, as we try to make it look like we have it all together, and we post on Facebook and we make people think that we have it all together, but in reality, a lot of moms are suffering in silence. A lot of moms are addicted. As a matter of fact, my mom got addicted because she took something to try to keep up. My mother's mother got addicted because she was trying to take something to keep up. And there's women all around us that we look at and we admire and we think, oh my gosh, they must have it all together. And they're dying inside, and they are dying and struggling in silence. And so I just encourage you guys to share this series, share this video, because it's one of the burdens in my heart is that I don't want people to be dying on the inside. And so I titled this In the Valley of the Shadow of Death, because what you were about to see is that Satan was not satisfied with just simply defeating me. He wasn't satisfied in just simply causing me to really hate my life or hate myself. He wanted to completely destroy me. So here I am on the hills of this victory where God has delivered my daughter from almost drowning. And just like the Israelites, I forget all of God's goodness. But the story that God brought me to this morning was the story in 2 Kings 19, where Elijah has actually just defeated about 450 prophets of Baal. Okay, Jezebel and Ahab were running all the prophets of God off. They were hiding in caves for their lives, and there's a standoff between Ahab's army and the prophets of Baal and Elijah. And in this standoff, God shows Himself so mighty through Elijah that Elijah kills off 450 prophets of Baal. Elijah, with his very voice, commanded through God, and held off the rain for so many years. And it wasn't going to be until Elijah said so, when God said it was time, that it was going to rain again. So the country is in great famine. Jezebel and Ahab are in control. They are evil. They're doing all kinds of evil, and they are seeking out the prophets of God. So Elijah, one of the major prophets in the Bible, who God didn't even see fit to let die physically, he actually was taken up to heaven in a chariot. This man comes to a place of complete defeat. I came to a place of complete defeat after I had seen God move in such a mighty way. You see, I had forgotten again what God had did, just like the Israelites did. So one day, I'm taking Prozac, and I don't even remember what happened. Something happened that was so insignificant. It was so minor, but I ended up in my car. And now remember, I had taken Adderall. I was off Adderall. One of the big things about Adderall is Corey couldn't stand it. Corey actually doesn't really care much for medication at all and is an advocate against it. And so a lot of times when I would take stuff or go to the doctor, I would hide it. I was manipulative. I lied a lot. I hid in shame because I didn't want him to know that what I was doing, because I knew that he would stop me. And I didn't want anybody to stop me. I didn't want anybody. And first of all, he knew from past experiences that I couldn't take things correctly, that I had addictive tendencies, and I had generations before me who had suffered with addiction of some sort, whether it be alcohol or drugs or whatever. So now Corey is completely against this, and I'm hiding to do it. I'm hiding in shame, right? I'm doing whatever April wants to do, not really taking into consideration that my doings and what I wanted to do was going to drag my family right down with me. Addicts don't think about anybody else but themselves. So here I am, and I'm on Prozac because I've tried this and I've tried that. And I'd stopped taking Adderall because Corey didn't like what it did to me. Didn't like the way that I became on it and off of it. And so one day I'm sitting, something happens. Something just happens. And I decide I'm going to kill myself. I decide I'm done with it all. I'm done. So I go to the store and I get me a 6-pack of Mike's Hard Lemonade. And I have a whole bottle of Klonopin, because I talked my doctor into that time to not only put me on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications. I convinced her that I also needed something like Xanax or Klonopin, but she didn't want to write me Xanax, but she writes me Klonopin. But not only do I have a prescription of Klonopin, I have a prescription of Finnegan as well. So now I've got my car loaded with Finnegan, Klonopin, and alcohol. And I sat in that car and I popped a couple of Klonopin, a couple of Finnegan, I'm drinking, and I'm just a shell of myself. I'm a complete mess. I'm done. And I'm on the phone with my sister's boyfriend at that time. And I'm just saying, tell my sister I love her. Corey's in the house. He doesn't know. He's tending to our children. And I'm sitting in my driveway with just bottles loaded, ready to go, alcohol, wallowing in my self-pity. And I'm on the phone with whoever, I don't even remember who it was at that time. And he's telling my sister that your sister's in a bad place right now. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what they were talking about. And I decided that I'm going to get out of my car. Now, I live on a very, very dark road at night. And I get out of my car, and I don't even know if I had like real intentions on killing myself, or if I was just like in some mental place at that time. But I'm sorry, my computer's doing something. Anyway, but what I did was I got out of my truck, and I ended up deciding that I was going to go walk out into traffic. So I go down my road, and it's very, very dark because now it's pitch black outside and there's no street light in this area. And I begin to walk, and the next thing I know, a car whips in, and my daddy rolls down the window and says, "Get in this car. This is my daddy." I get in the car, and my dad looks at me and he says, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" When Elijah is running and he finds himself in the wilderness. Why always the wilderness? The Israelites in the wilderness. Moses goes to the wilderness to meet God, finds himself in the wilderness. And Elijah, this is what happens. Jezebel says she's going to kill Elijah. Elijah just had that extreme victory, and now one woman is bringing empty threats because she sends her bailiffs to tell Elijah, hey, guess what? Jezebel's going to kill you. Well, hello, if Jezebel was going to kill Elijah, she kind of could have just did it right then. She had ample opportunity. But what Elijah was doing was sending empty threats. You see, the enemy acts on intimidation and empty threats to scare us. So Elijah freaks out, and he goes and wanders in the wilderness, and he finds himself underneath a juniper tree. I am so sorry. My computer is doing all kind of crazy stuff, guys. Finds himself on a juniper tree. And he tells God, I'm so tired of running. I'm so tired of running. Just take me now. This is what Elijah is like, depressed. He's defeated. And it says the angel of the Lord comes and he bakes Elijah a cake and puts it in front of him. Now, as we see the provision of manna in the wilderness for the Israelites, now God is providing for Elijah in this place of depression, this place of complete defeat. And this is what God tells Elijah in 1 Kings 19:9. It says Elijah went into a cave and he spent the night. Now, it is believed from my expositor's Bible that this cave was in the mountain that Moses was on top of when God passed before him. This was the mountain in which the 10 Commandments were given and where God instructed them and told them that they were going to go deliver the Israelites. Now Elijah is inside of this cave. He's not on top of the mountain. He's hiding in a cave. And God comes and says, then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, and God says, what are you doing? What are you doing here, Elijah? Now, my daddy didn't come in a cave. My daddy came in a Toyota and whipped up on in my driveway and told me, get in this car. What are you doing? And I cried and I cried and I cried in defeat. I said, Daddy, I'm so tired. Now, my dad, coming from a place where he knew exactly what I was going through, basically told me, like, you got to suck this up, April. You got to get stronger. And he began to speak into my life. You see, Satan wasn't going to I'm just going to make April feel a little bad about herself. No, he brought me to complete shame, complete emptiness, that all I could do in that moment was run to the pill bottle. Why to the pill bottle, April? Why not God? Because it was all that I knew. It was all that I knew. I was running back to slavery that I had known. So I'm going to leave the story here because my computer is doing all kind of crazy stuff this morning, like literally just keeps taking me off screen. But I want you guys to think about that story of Elijah. Two scripture verses for today came from 1 Kings 19. I said 19:9. Start and read the chapter of 19. And I pray that God speaks to you, that your Father finds you in a place of wondering and depression, and that he speaks to you just like the Lord did for Elijah in that place. I love you guys. Have a great day.